A very good morning to everyone, and welcome to this insightful panel discussion and book discussions that we have today. We have a very insightful book that has been lately published by Routledge. The book is edited by Dr.Firdous Ahmad Malik and Dr. Tarika Singh Sikarwar. As we will see in the book introduction and discussions, this book is exploring the dynamic and very critical topics of financial inclusion, and it is presenting diverse perspectives and evidence-based insights. I am the session moderator for this book discussion today. Before we begin, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to first of all, our two book editors and authors, Dr. Firdous Ahmad Malik and Dr. Tarika Singh, for accepting my invitation to host this book discussion under the umbrella of Jindal Center for Global South. And of course, a big thanks to our esteemed panelist, Professor Dr. K.D. Yadav and Dr. Bhagirath Baria. Let me first introduce briefly our two editors and authors. First, we have Dr. Firdous Ahmad Malik. Firdous Malik is an assistant professor of economics at University of People in United States of America. He's also the president of Jammu and Kashmir Economic Association, a leading voice in economic research and policy advocacy association. We have, of course, another renowned researcher and academician, Dr. Tarika Singh Sikarwar. Dr. Tarika is a professor and deputy director at the Prestige Institute of Management and Research in Gwalior. Her academic contributions to economics and management education are widely recognized. So thank you again, both Dr. Firdous and Dr. Tarika, for bringing, of course, this impactful book to life and to join us in Jindal Center for the Global South today. As I have mentioned, we have also two esteemed panelists. They will share, of course, their valuable insights with us today and their reflection on the book that we will discuss. First, we have Professor Dr. K.D. Yadav. Professor Yadav is a professor in the Department of Economics at Baba Saheb Bhimrao Ambedkar University. In Lucknow, Dr. Yadav's expertise in developmental economics and policy makes his perspective essential for today's topic. We have also Dr. Bhagirath Baria. He is an assistant professor in the Department of Banking and Insurance at the Maharaja Sayajiaru University of Baroda. Hope, excuse me for pronouncing names of universities. Dr. Baria is specialized in financial systems and has profound insights into the challenges and opportunities in financial inclusion. So again, I'm truly thankful for our panelists for joining us and looking forward to their insightful discussion. Let's not, have more discussions here from my side, because I'm so much looking forward to listen first from the two editors and authors on their insights and their motives to bring this book to life, as I have mentioned. So I would like first to leave the floor to Dr. Malik. And I have first, please introduce your insights about the book. And I have an important question. What inspired you to conceptualize this book? And how does it address the gaps in the existing literature on financial inclusion? Over to you, Dr. Firdous.
Thank you very much, Professor Hiba, for arranging this platform where we are going to share the insights about our book, which has been recently published by Routledge. So I am keen to share the background, as it is very important question. What was the inspiration behind the book? So the inspiration for conceptualizing this attempted desire to explore the global status of financial inclusion across diverse regions, and I was trying to provide a comprehensive analysis and what are the challenges and opportunities. So let me go to the my research background. My earlier academic journey, which started from Baba Sahib Bhimrao Ambedkar University, and where I have published my PhD work with Springer. That pursuit laid the foundation. However, I felt a pressing need to address the broader global issues such as poverty, inequality, and the marginalization of vulnerable communities, which remain deeply intervened by the financial inclusion. So during my PhD, the motivation was try to understand the financial inclusion system of India. So after publishing that book with Springer, so in my mind, the question arises: what next? So what next? For global South, what is happening in financial inclusion, and what are the current trends across the globe? So therefore, this book is, the aim of this book was to critically, find the research gap, literature gap, but not only, presenting a comprehensive perspective of financial inclusion across the regions, but also try to highlight innovative strategies, policies, and framework that can drive meaningful change. So it underscores the interconnectedness of financial inclusion with sustainable development, economic growth, social equality, and provide this book also provides readers with actionable insight. So moreover, this book is the result of collective effort, bringing together the perspective and expertise of contributors from various disciplines and regions. So let me share the statistics of our book. We are having 19 chapters, and there are 54 authors across the globe who have contributed for this book. I am deeply grateful to all authors and my esteemed editor Professor Tarika and the contributors who have shared their invaluable contributions, whether they are reviewers. We are having also published review team in our book. Almost 15 people. They have double peer reviewed the book. So all together, authors, editors, contributors across the globe, their insights have enriched this book and make this significant addition to the field of literature. Ultimately, my motivation was to contribute the global discussion on financial inclusion and addressing challenges faced by marginal populations, and that inspires the future research and policy making in this crucial domain. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Firdous. It is actually, I have went through the book, and it is indeed an important book that covers a very important topic on financial inclusion, and definitely it will enrich our libraries in different universities across India and all over the globe. I would like also now to ask Dr. Tarika if she can share the key findings and perspectives from the book and from different chapters that the book has covered. And how can policymakers, apply some of the main recommendations that the book has came out with?
Thank you, Dr. Adam. So am I audible properly, Dr. Firdous? Am I audible clearly?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. So, talking about the pivotal perspective for policymakers, book that is the Economics for Financial Inclusion is the book which lays emphasis on leveraging technology and digital transformation to bridge the financial inclusion gaps. So one of the aspects or highlights from this book is how technological advances like use of fintech, mobile technology, mobile banking can significantly increase the access of financial services for the underdeveloped populations. And we talk particularly in context of rural and underdeveloped regions. So our book, it has highlighted the need that for supportive regulatory frameworks and public-private partnership are required so that these technologies are accessible, secure, and inclusive to everyone. So the insights in the books are in this book are very crucial for policymakers aiming to promote financial inclusivity. The policymaker who aims to reduce economic disparities, who aims to foster sustainable economic growth. So by addressing both digital and financial device, this book's chapters and the content provided in the book is going to be really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's true, and I hope it will be at least some of the recommendations will be applicable very soon by different governments. Now I would like to move to our panelists, and first of all, I have general question to both of them. What their perspective on the book and insights, and how they can see that this book will be a good addition to our academic literature and for policymakers as well. And so that is a general question. Besides that, I would like to start first with Dr. K.D. Yadav and ask him about, given his expertise in developmental economics, what are the primary challenges hindering financial inclusion in rural India, and how do they compare with global trends? Over to you, Dr. Yadav. I hope Dr. Yadav is able to.
Sir, you are mute.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Yeah, sorry. So thank you, the organizer, for inviting me in this discussion. Discussion on book edited by Dr. Malik and Madam Tarika. I think that book is a very relevant issue. It is, as title of the book itself refers that economics of financial inclusion. I think that see, in today's time, financial inclusion is very important. Even different governments across countries are recognizing this fact. Even in India, since last two decades, we are very much emphasizing on financial inclusion. Government have launched several schemes for promoting financial inclusion. But the thing is that there are several issues. Still, it is a big challenge. Uh, we observe that major section of our society is financially excluded. If we see different services, different financial services, so some basic services like bank account, there is access of these services. But when we go into deeper aspect of financial inclusion, we observe that still a major portion of our population is financially excluded. Like there is not access of credit, sufficient access of credit is not there, insurance access is not there, and similarly other important services like pension, like remittance, all these issues are still big challenge to achieve. So it is a very important to understand what are the reasons why even after 75 years of independence, we are not able to deliver these services to the marginalized section of our society. So I think this book is going to address these issues, these challenges. Uh, I think that this book will help to the policymakers who are directly dealing with the issue of financial inclusion, as well as to the academicians like me. Actually, I am planning to start a new course of the same title, which book is also economics of financial inclusion. And I think now this book is going to be a great help for me. I can design my syllabus, and I can incorporate different aspects related to financial inclusion by help of this book. And I think it is going to help other university professors, teachers as well. They can use this book, and I think now this area is emerging. This book is going to help a lot to the academician, particularly for me. In this year, in this meeting of our BPGS, I have just discussed that I am planning to launch this particular paper as optional paper, and I think that this book will help me. And I think that the question which Madam Adam has asked to me, ki how this financial inclusion of rural area can be promoted. I think that first we'll have to understand the. I feel that the financial exclusion of rural area is very much affected by non-economic factors. Non-economic factors are dominating in rural areas, uh, like caste, gender, religion, education. So first we'll have to identify those groups which are financially excluded, and then we'll have to understand their financial behavior. The people who are financially excluded, what are their financial behavior? uh, they are they are by studying their financial behavior, we can understand their financial requirement. Until unless we do not know their financial behavior, we'll not able to understand their financial requirement. And if we'll design the our financial products according to their financial requirement, then only they will take into inclusion policies. But when we assess, we find that it is not reaching to the people are not taking the interest in these kind of policies. So I think we'll have to design the financial products according to the financial requirement of the excluded section, marginalized groups of our society. Then only we can include them in mainstream of our financial institution. Another very important issue which I think is relevant to expand the financial infrastructure in rural areas, which is very much lacking. Is still, if we see the presence of branches, see in the urban areas, people are financially literate. They have access of the financial technology. There is a lot of financial innovation taking place, and they are very much using those technologies, those innovations. But when we go to the rural areas, there is a very much hesitation using these financial products. There's financial innovations, technologies. So I think the only solution for promoting financial inclusion in rural areas to expand the financial infrastructure in rural areas. And I think the infrastructure which is available in urban areas, if we can shift to the rural areas, it will help a lot to the this financial inclusion process. Uh, so I think this government is launching different slogans for promoting different aspects of amenities like Har Ghar Jal, you know, like Har Ghar solar system kind thing. So we can also argue like Har Gaon bank kind of thing. If we can think in that direction, ki there will be one bank in one village. So it will help a lot to the rural people, because until unless we will not provide them doorstep banking services, I think still it will not be effective to promote these kind of financial inclusion process. And I think financial inclusion is a very important issue. Why it is important issue? Because see, uh, this access of financial service ensure access of all the needs of life, and it also unleash the potential of an individual. So when we are ensuring financial inclusion, it is going to promote the capacity building of an individual, and it will also develop the human development aspect of our society. So I think this financial inclusion is a very important issue, and government is also taking it into its account. And I think this book is going to help a lot to the policymakers as well as uh, academicians. So once again, I'll thank to the editors, authors of this book, Professor Malik and Professor Tarika Sikarwar, madam. So with this, I thank you once again. Thank you very much.
Dr. Yadav, for sharing these truly insights, thoughts about financial inclusion in generally and especially in rural India. Now I would like to ask Dr. Baria also to share his general insights on the book, and how would you can you see digital banking and fintech shaping the future of financial inclusion in India? What policy changes are needed to maximize their impact from your views as an expert in the field? Dr. Baria, over to you.
Thank you, madam. Thank you so much. And I hope I'm clearly audible to all of you. Firstly, there are two things I would like to point out, and I would like to keep my analysis very close to the book itself, because I have thoroughly scanned the book. First thing is that financial inclusion is purely endogenous to policy, and history has proven in India or in any emerging economy that financial markets are not able to push the agenda of financial inclusion. This is quite clear. The second important challenge that we have today, as of today, in emerging economies, is that the integration of financial technologies, fintech, into the back end and the front end, in these two sides of the banking value chain, there is a gap between them. We are talking about AI right now, but we had AI around 40-45 years ago. And the back end, big corporations and now even banks have been able to leverage fintech. But when it comes to the front end, there seems to be a lag, and this lag needs to be addressed. Interestingly, in the book, there is a whole section, a part dedicated, I think the part 2 of the book is dedicated to how technology and inclusion, financial inclusion, interact. That's one of the fundamental strengths of the book, because the editors have taken care to include chapters that focus on the recent policy challenges. And as I said, in my first point itself, financial inclusion is a policy issue. We cannot address financial inclusion purely through market solutions. And this book does provide a lot of attention to how policy can help in improving financial inclusion. With regards to Madam's specific question on how I see digital banking and fintech shaping the future of financial inclusion, specifically in India, and what kind of policy changes are required, let me start by saying that fintech is going to continue disrupting the value chain in the banking sector, and this is going to lead to more and more integration of the two core sources of revenue for banks, the deposit side and the credit side. This integration will continue, and banks are increasingly becoming data dominant entities. So there was a very good article I had read by somebody who worked in Flipkart and also in Amazon. They said that big corporates, including financial services corporates, in next 20 years maybe will become data giants rather than whatever core business they are doing. So banks need to be ready to handle that data flood that is going to occur. And again, that front end and back end gap in adopting fintech is a very fundamental and big challenge in whether digital banking and fintech will be able to successfully shape the future of financial inclusion in India or not. Because if banks keep on adopting technologies on the back end but are not able to translate them into value for the customers on the front end, then maybe that expenditure on the back end may turn out to be a sunk cost. This is something that I think part 2 of your book, in particular chapters 4 and 5 of the book, are focusing upon, where they look into how adoption of fintech as a core banking services poses a challenge. Now, while they are not directly focused on India, it's a globally spread book. There are very good insights in chapters 4 and 5 of the book, where fintech adoption related practical actionable insights can be drawn. And I think the Reserve Bank of India here in India, the RBI, is playing the role of the coordinator of this fintech integration into the banking space. So I believe, yes, digital banking and fintech are going to be very positively affected by the kind of changes that are occurring, and financial inclusion is going to be improved with time. But there is a problem, and the second part of Madam's question is, I mean, what policy changes are needed on this side? RBI stance has largely been focused on deposit side, and I do see a lot of bias in literature also, where they focus on how deposit mobilization is a tool to financial inclusion. While it is theoretically correct and it seems to be the easiest way of fostering financial inclusion, the credit side banking services, and particularly the non-banking financial services, these two have not been given much policy attention. And I think the RBI and IRDA, that is the regulatory authority of insurance sector, and for that matter, even the SEBI, which regulates the financial markets, they must come together to frame an agenda of a multi-pronged, holistic attack on the financial exclusion problem. So we can see exclusion on deposit side, on credit side, on non-banking financial services side, for example, on insurance side. And a holistic approach by policymakers should be there, wherein they can leverage fintech to address these exclusions. Secondly, the regulatory sandbox that RBI runs, even IRDA runs, and the SEBI runs. The regulatory sandbox cohorts that are run regularly to allow fintech companies to showcase their fintech models and run them on a pilot basis, experimental basis, for improving banking and other financial services. More simplified cohorts should be available, and they should be made accessible to local smaller fintech companies. This is one very important point that RBI can perhaps do to improve the integration of fintech into the financial inclusion process. Of course, RBI should not have, and fintech is not a quick process. It requires structural changes in the banking model, in the banking business, in the way customers perceive banks. We need to give time for the structural changes to unfold, and there should not be a FOMO, fear of missing out. And this gap between back end and front end should be consistently addressed at each level, starting from branch all the way to the sectoral level. So I think with these ideas, this particular book, the part 2 of the book, chapter 4 and 5, and a very interesting chapter 17, that focuses on the determinants of aggregate savings. I mean, these chapters provide a very clear policy agenda for not only India's policymakers, but even for many policymakers in emerging economies. And across economies, we have seen that markets are unable to foster financial inclusion. We need policy interventions. And what is an optimal policy design, I think, can be very well learned from the specific chapters that I have pointed out. Of course, other chapters may be having even more interesting insights, but I have a specific bias for these three chapters in your book. So I think I could explain my points. Thank you so much, madam.
Thanks, of course. Thank you so much, Dr. Bhagirath, and you have truly explained the questions that I have asked. So now I would like, because I know we are now it is 12:12 and we have less time. So before asking my last questions to our authors and panelists, I would like to ask our audience if they have questions to pose to editors or the panelists. So could you please raise your hand or write in chat box your question, and write the name of the panelist or editors that you are addressing your question is to, or if it is general question, write it is general question. Any questions? I can see if in chat box, is there any questions written in the chat box? Yes, Himani, yeah, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much for this session. And I have my question from Dr. Bhagirath Baria, sir. I want to know your opinion on how the current fintech sector in India is working out for the industry. And I mean, in the next 3 to 5 years, what possible trends can we expect to see in Indian market?
When you ask regarding industry, I believe you are talking specifically about financial services industry. So accordingly, I will pitch
Yes.
my idea. And
Yeah.
I think the trend, I mean, I might sound quite pessimistic if I make this statement, but please allow me to diverge little from other panelists. There is a kind of FOMO, fear of missing out in India, on adopting fintech. We need to calm down and let the banking sector and the financial services industry go through the structural changes that are required to absorb fintech. Now, while fintech is necessary to improve ground level outcomes and improve the efficiencies of banks and the other things that literature points out and very well documented in the book by Dr. Malik and Dr. Tarika Singh. We also need to understand that there is a time required and adjustment mechanism required for technologies to be adopted, because we are talking about humans working in banking sector who are going to get affected by these changes. So I think in next coming decade, I believe there will be a large amount of labor market changes in the banking and financial services sector due to fintech. And fintech will continue doing its work. It will continue improving services and outcomes. But there is going to be a lot of upheaval in the next 10 years in the labor market for banking and financial services, particularly in India. And we need to be ready to handle those challenges and allow our labor market to adjust and find a new equilibrium so that the integration of fintech into core banking space is smooth and without much disturbances. That is my idea, Ms. Imani.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks, Himani and Dr. Bhagirath for addressing the question. Any other questions from our audience? Okay, meanwhile, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. Let me ask my general question to all our esteemed panelists and our editors. So we all know that financial inclusion is playing a crucial role in attaining sustainable development goals. In your view, how can financial inclusion be a catalyst for a broader economic and social transformation? Because financial inclusion, as Dr. Yadav has well explained, in rural area, it's not only it doesn't have only economic goals, it has also other social goals to attain. So how can it be well used as a tool to boost the broader economic and social transformation in the global south, generally speaking, and in India as a case? So I'm leaving the floor to you all. Let's start first with Dr. Firdos and start with editors and then move to the panelists.
Yeah, thank you very much. Actually, this sustainable development question related to financial inclusion, it is quite difficult question to address when we are talking about the globe. So we are having concept of developed countries, we are having then concept of underdeveloped countries, emerging countries. So there is lot of developmental gap already existed between these countries. So if we try to understand the process of ensuring financial access to all the masses at affordable services, it leads to key enabler as a sustainable development. Financial inclusion is mostly served to unserved population. As Professor Dr.K.Yadav, we have done lot of primary study. So it provides opportunity to people of unserved populations, marginalized populations, urban destitute. It definitely provides them first opportunity. Second, it also is having the power to support their livelihood. It gives them access to education. It makes better their healthcare, and it also gives them opportunity to have better economic activity participation. So this is a transformation one side we can say by providing them financial access. But the question is that to making it in line with sustainable development goals, it also hinders because of systematic and intellectual challenges there are. So as we are having less time, I will just highlight some of the challenges as we are trying to make sustainable development goals in line. So if we try to understand global south, impact of war in global south, that is a big question mark to work on sustainable development. If there is a war, so nothing is possible, no policy will work. People are migrating, people are losing their assets, there is loss of manpower across the world. Thousands of women, even I can say millions of women in last 20 decades, they are going, we are losing them because of wars. Displacement of populations is going on. But on the other side, we are talking about the resilience, technology involvement, and because of these wars, we are facing the lack of institutional stability, we can say. But however, just like fintech, innovation in institutional, they are a solution like mobile banking. They can reach to these displaced populations and facilitate their economic activity. But I doubt because any policy cannot work because of these conditions. So number one is war is having a very negative impact to meet the sustainable development goals. The second important point which I want to highlight, it is also the scope of future studies to work in this direction, like migration and remittances. This also creates a disparity. Conflict itself creates financial economic challenges. So then there is problem of legal documentation. If you are displaced from a one place where your home is, and you have to go to other place where you are facing legal issues. So this is second issue which hinders the objective of sustainable development. Financial inclusion has been accepted in the literature that it leads to economic growth and development. But again, because of these wars, we are also addressing inequality. It helps us to, elevate the poverty. So it can help to bridge the income gap by enabling credit, savings, and insurance, so particularly to the marginal population. But however, structural inequalities such as gender, somebody has, mentioned it in the chat, gender, ethnic discrimination, limitation to reach, just like Professor Yadav was talking about, rural infrastructure is missing. So policies aimed to equitable these financial services so that we can have inclusive growth. They are, leading paths toward sustainable development. So these needs to be addressed. Then, great debate is going on from the development institutions like World Bank, then IMF. They are talking about policies with respect to green finance, green finance investment. As you know, there is an economist, one of the development economists, Professor A.P. Thurwal. He is arguing that the development gap between the regional developed countries, developing countries, and emerging countries. If we set off developed countries to set off their working, let us make them set off the working. It will settle take underdeveloped and emerging countries more than 102 years to catch up the gap. So if we are having catch up gap, developmental gap, by imposing green finance investments equally to the developing countries who need development, who need growth, who need to generate employment, it becomes the challenge for most vulnerable or underdeveloped countries. So this again hinders the concept of sustainable development goal. Sustainable development goal cannot be uniform, but as we are existing in a universe where it equally impacts us. But if we violate sustainable development goals, global warming things, they can hinder us badly. Especially the global warming is like flood, tsunami. They are hindering always the poor people most, the vulnerable, the women, the kids. So therefore, it is again a big question mark on how we can utilize the concept of sustainable development goals when there exists already development gap between the developed regions and this green finance disparity. Then there is again corruption. Development institutions, they are headed by great power blockers like USA and all. Now BRICS association. I am giving you some in context, but they are debatable discussions. Like BRICS, they were trying to introduce new currency so that to neutralize dollar. But recently Trump came aggressively and he has. So therefore, the policy is coming from development institutions which are great partners to them. So there is great violation to these policies. Development institutions, they are not following, but that is impacted on the lower development. It is again question to make. So institutional discrimination, I can say it. Institutional discrimination is very hard. So, but in our book, we provide a solution. The way forward. What is the way forward? And we have one paper in the book with Tarika, Singh, me, and there is Nidhi Jain. In that chapter, particularly, we discussed the forecasting gap, which is related to sustainable development. We said, okay, everything is in line. We are having financial products, we are having financial services, we are targeting the ultra poor. But what is missing? Why these policies are failing? And we have introduced a model. It is although theoretical model, but publish it now. We are happy that people should cite it. In that we have highlighted the gap which is in policies, that forecasting gap is missing. So forecasting variables like weather. India is a country where we are having these challenges. We are having every year floods. We are having tsunamis. So at ground they are having certain policy to fulfill the financial inclusion like health policies and all. So they will fail if there is flood. Because of flood, the particular region is for 2 months or 1 month in a complete flood. So there are no forecasting variables. So the funds fund and policy objective gets mismatched. So therefore we have we have highly focused on that forecasting parameter should be involved before implementing any policy. So in our book, in general, we like to transform societies by fostering economic participation. We need to reduce inequalities if we are targeting sustainable development goals. We should also supporting sustainable development, but however to be a truly catalytic, I can say it must address the systematic barriers, whether they are from development institutions and conflict. As I have highlighted, migration issue is very big issue now. Syria, what is happening in Middle East, Syria, Gaza, so they are forced displaced. So these are large population. The question of migration, and there was lot of literature about England migration, how these people, black people migration issues in South Africa. So institutional bias, which I have highlighted, many institutions are doing it now. Power blockers, G20, where we have India has a great mission in that. So many agreements have passed, but again BRICS they have been set up. So power blockers their fight, and they are making also instability in the economic system. Again, in international corporation, innovative to financial technologies, inclusive policies. So they are unlocking its potential. But I, as a beginning, let me finish now. I have taken too much time. As the beginning, I have told it is a very crucial question to address sustainable development to make in line with financial inclusion, because financial inclusion is targeting the ultra poor. So the policymakers, power blockers, they hardly believe about the development of these ultra poor. Therefore, there is these policies on the paper, but at ground there is great you know gap. Thank you very much.
Dr. Firdaus, you are really passionate researcher in financial inclusion. And I would like now to also listen to the insights of Dr. Tarika, and then Dr. Bhagirath and Dr. K.D.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hardam. What I'll do, I'll carry forward the talks of what Firdaus was talking. So just to make our audience aware, what we are talking here is about the Sustainable Development Goals. That is the 17 global objectives that United Nations has established for their 2030 agenda. Linking it to our book, like our book, it contains the evidences, both case studies, both in form of chapters in terms of developing and developed nations. So you will be delighted to know that the perspectives, various perspectives on socialism, not only from India, but from Africa, South Africa, Malaysia, India, and similar nations have been included in our book. So talking about linkage of sustainable development goals to financial inclusion, not all the goals are directly linked to financial inclusion, but I'll talk about the goal one that is related to poverty. So financial inclusion and insights from the books, they support that how the poverty eradication will enables the savings, investment in economic stability in various nations, and it is not per se, but it is in general. Secondly, talking about the goal number 5 of sustainable development, that is related to gender equality. So our book has chapters which focuses upon how providing financial access to women will foster women empowerment and give them equal opportunity. Thirdly, talking about goal number 8, that is related to the economic growth aspect. So the insight from the book can be taken to encourage the entrepreneurship and how the micro and small enterprises, they can formalize their business. So insights from the chapter can be taken, and the inclusion part is in this way related to goal number 8 of economic sustainable development goals. Then the goal number 10 that pertains to reduction of inequalities. So if by offering financial services to marginalized communities of the nation. That will help in making them more included in the system and reducing their disparities. And they may have more access to the economic opportunities which are available to the population in general. And then one of the goals that is related to climate action. So our book also has a chapter which tells how financial inclusion supports the green initiatives, like how the loans and the other kind of financial services, they can be extended to sustainable energy projects. You understand that what Dr. Firdaus was talking about. He was talking about global context. Like book, it does not only has the various chapters which relates to the a nation in particular, but the chapters, they tell how financial inclusion may act as a catalyst for economic and social transformation. Like if we focus our discussion for enhanced economic participation, that is economic transformation. So inclusion, it will help in improving savings, it will improve in giving having more credits and encouraging entrepreneurship. It will also help in job creation, development of small enterprises. More technology based investments will be there, more productivity will be there. Then more digital economy, like more digital payment and mobile banking usage, and more transaction efficiency and transparency will come out of it. And if we relate it to the social aspect, that how inclusion will help social transformation, and how various sectors of the society will get financial services which are equally accessible to them, be they low income group person. They'll get support in terms of emergencies, they'll get support in terms of their health requirement in the sense, like when they save, they'll be able to have money for their any kind of illness or medical treatments. They'll be able to invest the low I'm talking about lower income in particular. So they'll be able to invest more in the education. They'll be now women of the society, they'll have more access to financial services. They'll have more decision making powers in their household and communities when they are financially included. And if we say like India in particular, I would just because we are running out of time, I'll just focus on one aspect. India as a nation still facing certain challenges in financial inclusion. So the internet access in the deepest pockets of the nation, in the rural areas, the certain aspect related to digital literacy, use of digital services. So there is a scope of making our population more digitally aware, make them learn how financial services can be accessed digitally, and previous experiences of people in terms of trust they had on the formal financial institution. It needs to be enhanced more, and still we need to work hard upon the cultural and logistic barriers which women face in accessing financial services, especially in the rural areas. So I'll stop here, and I would just thank Dr. Adam so that she's able to pass on for the more comments from the other panelists.
Thanks so much, Dr. Tarika, for your insights. Dr. K.D. and Dr. Baria, could you please share also your insights on the question of financial inclusion and sustainable development goals?
Yes, madam. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, so I think this Financial inclusion and the issue of sustainable development, I feel that they are very closely linked, particularly countries like India, where we observe that nearly two-thirds population is living in a very adverse condition. They are not able to fulfill their basic needs their own, and they are dependent on government subsidies and supports. And I think same kind of situation is prevailing in other developing countries as well. And why this condition is there? Because what I personally feel that uh, see, they have all kind of potential, uh, but they are not able to use their potential. Like if we see in case of India, there is a lot of discrimination on gender ground as well as on caste ground. 50% population of women is highly excluded. Similarly, on caste ground, if we see the OBC and SC's population, then they consist nearly 80% of the total population, and they are highly excluded from the mainstream. So if we'll include them financially, and I personally feel that the access of financial services ensure access of all kind of services. They can utilize their potential, and when they are utilizing their potential, then they are not developing themselves only. They are also promoting to the society. They are also promoting to the country. So I think this process of financial inclusion will help a lot in direction of sustainable development by utilizing their potential, utilizing their capacities. We are hardly using the potential of 10% population. 90% population potential is highly underutilized. So, through the process of financial inclusion, if we can use their potential, then it is going to help a lot to the economy, a lot to the society. See, in which extent we are able to use the potential of women in our society, in which extent we are able to use the potential of scheduled caste population or backward caste population. So I feel if government make policies targeting to these sections of the society, it is going to help a lot. And I think the sustainable development aspect focuses on these particular dimension. I think it is now it become politically sensitive also when opposition is demanding for caste census. Opposition is raising slogans like जिसकी जितनी भागीदारी उसकी उतनी हिस्सेदारी kind of slogans are there. I think in future it is going to happen. It is going to happen because now it become politically sensitive. India is a country where everything is decided politically. When any issue become politically sensitive, naturally it is going to happen. And I think this financial inclusion process is going to help in a lot in that direction. Uh, this is what I think about this link between the financial inclusion process and this goal of sustainable development. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Dr. Yadav and Dr. Baria, please share also your insights on the topic.
Yeah, I'll have a quick viewpoint on this. With regards to sustainable development goals and financial inclusion nexus, a lot more empirical work needs to be done. To some extent and to a considerable extent, your book, Dr. Malik and Dr. Tarika Singh's book, addresses this particular area. It's a fascinating area of empirical research. And what I feel as an economist, from a macroeconomic point of view, when we empower those at the bottom of the pyramid, it should lead to expansion in aggregate demand. And that expansion should fuel the growth momentum that we critically require today in order to improve our standards of living. What happens essentially is, while empowerment occurs in numbers on the ground, somehow it not always gets translated into economic well-being, and particularly improved savings. So that, again, coming back to the chapter 17 of your book, that focuses on determinants of aggregate savings. Once we need to study how financial inclusion can improve savings, because that culture is somewhere down the line missing at the bottom of the pyramid. And I, in my own anecdotal evidence, if I tell you, I meet people at different spectrums of economic standards, and those who are earning relatively lesser tend to spend more than what they need and generally avoid savings. So this pushing the savings momentum and savings base of a large population, not only in India but across the globe, who are deprived of healthy savings level, that is necessary in order to ensure that inclusion becomes a catalyst for not only economic and social transformation but also achieving the sustainable development goals. That's my view. Thank you.
I'm on mute, sorry. So thank you so much, Dr. Baria, and all our panelists and authors, editors, to share their views on my last question. Let's close this session because we are running now. We have passed our allowed time. So thank you to all the participants and our esteemed guests. Special thanks to Dr. Malik and Dr. Sikarwar for their dedication to this very important subject. A heartfelt thanks to panelists, Dr. Yadav and Dr. Baria, for sharing their illuminating insights with us. So to conclude, financial inclusion, we can say it is a journey, not just a destination. It requires continuous efforts from everyone in the society, not only what I believe, not only the government, but also from the different groups in our society and community, and also from people themselves. They should support the government in its policy and all efforts that it established. So it requires continuous efforts, innovation also as well, and collaboration from all sectors and from the economic partners. So the book that Dr. Malik and Dr. Sikarwar has provided us serves as a guiding light for policymakers, academics, and practitioners, and to students, of course. To our audience, thank you so much for joining also us today. We encourage you also to explore the book. It is now available from Routledge and on all platforms. I request, please, Dr. Firdous, if he can share in the chat box the link to the book so they can check, and also they can order from Amazon. Let's continue this also conversation and work together towards a more inclusive financial future. And of course, we as a researcher, we would love to collaborate together and work on more research and similar kind of academic books on financial inclusion. So with this, I would like to conclude our today's session, and we look forward to host you in future session under the umbrella of Gender Center for Global South. Thank you so much. And I would like to request our panelists and our participants to turn on their camera if they can have a group picture together before ending this session.
So meanwhile, I will also like to thank Prof.D.K. Yadav, Professor Bhagirath, Dr. Sukhinder Kaur, Professor Gausia, Professor Anushri, Dr. Nidhi Jain, young scholar, and others who have joined us, and patiently participated in our discussion. And I think it was one of the wonderful discussions we have early morning on Sunday. So there will be more, more highlighters coming on maybe next month. We will be having a new book with Supringer, that is gender, that is talking about gender. And I am very passionate to invite you all and have more discussions across the India. Nowadays I am participating, but I would like young authors to contribute, to bring their research and share with such platforms, so that we together can in collaboration and bring something to the world of scientific world by putting our effort in the form of research publication or presentation. So I motivate all young scholars to come join us. We are having upcoming workshops also with Jammu and Kashmir Economic Association. We will be updating you all. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank
If
you.
you are anybody is having any suggestion, they can quickly before we wind.
So thank you so much, and we look forward also to host you in person for another discussion on campus when semester starts. So thank you so much, and we'll connect definitely very soon. Thank you. Have a nice weekend.
Thank
Happy
you,
New
Dr. Yadav.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yadav.